Okay, for today's lesson, you are allowed to use a calculator, but we are going to find measures of center. That's your mean, your median, your mode, okay, from different displays. So like bar graphs, line plots, things like that. Okay, so what is the thing about mean, median, mode are basically ways to find like the middle of the data, where all the data is kind of surrounded around. We also call this measures of center. Okay, so you should remember, should be familiar with, mean is the sum. Remember, the sum is the answer to an addition problem of a set of numbers divided by how many numbers are in that set. We relate this with average, like for stats in like games such as like, what is their batting average? What is their GPA? Like if you have your GPA, that's a grade point average. That's the mean. Okay, you hear a lot about averages in basically in sports. So one of the things that you don't technically have to do is put these in order from least to greatest. However, if you do it now, you're going to be set for when you have to find median and things like that. So let's just do it now so we don't have to keep on repeating the process. Okay, so in order for us to receive the credit, we have to like basically show what am I adding, what am I dividing by, what do I get when I add them all together, and then the final answer. So basically I broke this down into like 3 steps in order for you to use this. So it says, what is Chelsea's average score on her test? Okay, so step 1, all I want you to do is, first of all, make sure it's least to greatest. Saves a lot of headache when we move on to the next topic. As you do it, cross it out. So we have 88 plus 89 plus 92 plus 97 plus 100. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Always double check that you wrote them all out. Okay, that's step 1. Showing what I'm going to do. Step 2. Let's find the sum of the numbers on top as our numerator. Good rule of thumb is to do it twice when you type it in. So 88 plus 89 plus 92 plus 97 plus 100. And I got 466. You want to check that twice. So you type it in twice. Make sure you get 466, because if you do all that math and then forget a number or whatever, you type in something wrong, then it is going to mess you up altogether. Okay? And once you do this part, then all you have to do is show me your final answer. So take 466. Now you have to press equals, okay, before you divide. So that's why I have you do this step. And then divide it by 5. And if you got 93.2, her average score is a 93.2%. So she's averaging an A. That seems reasonable because if you look at it, most of her answers or most of her scores are kind of around the 90s, right? So that does make sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at another one. Now this time, let's look at a bar graph. Let's pull data from a bar graph. Let's figure out what the average shoe size is, or the mean. Okay, so one of the things I always have kids do is pay attention to, where these are located. So Tanya has 8, Michelle's at 10. They're in between, so that's at 7. They're in between, that's at 9, and they're on the line, which is 6. So again, when we find the mean, I want you to show me, putting these in order from least to greatest, show me your work. Okay, so step 1, I have a 6 and a 7 and an 8 and a 9 and a 10. Okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, we're dividing by 5 this time. So this is me showing my work. I'm showing what I'm doing. I'm showing what my sum is going to be. Okay, step 2, let's actually add the top. Remember, always a good rule of thumb is to type it in twice. So 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. Do it twice. I got 40. Hopefully you can divide 40 by 5, and I got 8. 8 is the average shoe size. Honestly, if you notice at the shoe store, typically 8 is one of those shoe sizes that they always have a lot of. 8, 8.5, things like that. Okay? So again, make sure you put them in order from least to greatest. Divide by however many numbers there are. It's not going to be 5 every time. This just the last 2 happen to be that way. And then show me your work. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and look at this one, which is a line plot. Okay, a lot of kids have a hard time reading these. Okay, what this means is that in this data, these are the number of books read in a month. So they must have asked a bunch of kids. Hence, that's a statistical question. Okay, so if you look right here, that means that this is 1, 1. This means this is a 2 and this is a 2. This is a 3, a 3, a 3, a 3, a 5, a 7, a 7, and a 10, and a 10. Do not show 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4. That's not what I want. I want to know what each individual one of these dots represent. So now that these are actually technically in order, I can do that. Okay, now let's go and show our work. So step 1, we show what we're going to find the sum. So I have a 1, I have a 2, a 2, a 3, a 3, a 3, a 3, a 5, a 7, a 7, a 10, and a 10. Whew! All right, now divide by how many numbers we have. Count your dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I'm going to divide by 12. I got 12 dots. Now, instead of typing 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus, no, let's make it a little easier on ourselves. Mentally, I can go, okay, this is 5, 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, that's 3 times 4, which is 12. Okay, this is 14, this is 20, and then I got a number 5. So I kind of like try to group things together to make it a little bit easier. By all means, if you want to type all those numbers in, go for it. I'm not doing that. Okay, so I have a 5 and a 12 and a 5 and a 14 and a 20. Okay, regardless of whatever way you do it, the sum of the numerator is 56 divided by 12. Okay, let me just make sure I don't copy anything wrong. Okay, now let's divide it. Now divide by 12. Let's see what the average is. Okay, I got 4.6 repeating. 4.6 repeating. If that's what you got, you did it correctly. But if we're talking about how many books they read in a month, let's think about full books. So if I was like, I would accept that answer by all means, I would. But if this is kind of basically close to about 5 books, right? About 5 books. So sometimes they'll ask you for the exact answer, and then sometimes they'll ask you for what it's closest to. So using rounding rules, if I round it to a whole number, it would be 5. Or if I say round to the nearest like half, like this would be close to 4.5. You can say 4.7. It just depends on the rules here. So always make sure you read the directions. So if it says nearest 10th, nearest 100th, whatever. Typically I say nearest 10. So if I say nearest 10th, this would be a 6 and a 6, right? And that means I want one number after the decimal. The 6 would tell this 6 what to do, and that means to round it up. Okay. However, in the real world, they actually are very specific like that. You're allowed to have a decimal as an average. So don't feel like it always has to be a whole number. That's not necessarily true. Okay. Now, next concept, I'm going to go ahead and skip these. If you need extra examples, just let me know. So I'm going to look at one thing that's different here is talking about another word called an outlier. Okay. So if I ask you to find the mean here, what you would do is you would do exactly like we did before. So we'll put these in order. So I have a 2 and a 4, 2 and a 4, and a 5 and a 7 and a 9 and a 5 and a 7 and a 9 and 11 and a 13 and a 15 and a 42. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Okay. All right, so let's find the mean like we've been doing. Step 1. Step 2, I'm going to show what I get as a sum divided by 9. Again, you could use that theory about if you want to go ahead and type like 6 and 12 and 20 and 28. If you want to do it that way, you can. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, I got 108. Okay, 108 divided by 9 is on average 12. So number of pairs of shoes owned. On average, people own 12 pairs of shoes. Okay, so I might ask you, what is the outlier? There might be one, there might not be one. Basically, it's a value that is either really, really high or really, really low compared to every other number in there. Okay, some kids are like, well, how far away does it have to be? It's going to be very obvious if there's an outlier. So if you put them in order from least to greatest, is either your lowest number or your highest number is an outlier, or it might not be either. If you look at all these numbers, which one is significantly away from everything else? The outlier is kind of like an outcast. It doesn't belong. So if you say, oh, this number is 42, looks like it doesn't belong with all these other numbers, that is correct. So what do you think is going to happen to the mean if I decide to take that out of the data? 42 is the largest number in the data. What do you think is going to happen to it? Think about that. What do you think is going to happen to my average if I take the highest number out of it? Or think about your grades. If I took your highest grade out of your average, what would happen to your grades? Equal right, okay? So now, instead of having to do this all over again, all I have to do is take 108, because that was the sum. I took out 42, right? I took that out of the data. So 108 minus 42. Now the sum is 66. But now I don't have 9 numbers. I took one number out. So instead of it being dividing by 9, I took a number out, so it should be dividing by 8. So let's divide it by 8. And I got 8 and 25/100ths. If I ask you to round to the nearest 10th, which I usually would, it's 8.2 or 8.3, excuse me, because the 5 tells the 2 to go up. Was your prediction true? Before, on average, people own about 12 shoes. Here, on average, without the outlier, it dropped down to 8 and 3/10. Was your prediction true? Hopefully it was, yes. So if I remove a very, very high number out of the data set, my average is going to drop. What do you think is going to happen if I remove the lowest number? So think about your grades. I go, you know what? I'm going to drop your lowest grade off. If I drop your lowest grade off, your average is going to go up. So that's what you need to know about outliers. They do affect the mean either by increasing it or decreasing it. So that's kind of what I state in this on this page. So the outlier affects it because it either brings it up or down. So again, if I was to look at this one here, looking at all the numbers in this data set, which one's the outlier here? 60 would be the outlier. Since I'm removing a high number from the data, again, my average without the outlier would significantly drop that. It would drop down, okay? Now, if I remove the low number, then it would go up. So think about it that way here, okay? So if you're in pre-alg, or if you're in my advanced class, these questions you are expected to do. If you're not, this is more of a challenge question. This is not something you'll be assessed on if you're in my regular class. Okay, so for advanced, the number of minutes Aubrey spent talking on her cell phone. Okay, how many minutes did she talk on her cell phone during the 6 months? So these are all the minutes in which she was talking on the cell phone, and we know that the mean is, I'm telling you, her average, including June, was 532, okay? You're basically solving this like an equation. So this would be like my X here, right? So I have what she had in the 6th month, right? Plus the 1st month, plus the 2nd month. Again, you could put these in order. You don't have to, but since we're just finding the mean here, I'm just gonna go in order to make sure I don't have anything incorrect. Okay, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then 478. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So I would be dividing it by 6, right? And I'm telling you, the answer I want has to be 532. So I'm trying to figure out what the heck x is. So think about what we talked about, combining like terms. What could I do to make this a little bit smaller? Okay, so if I add up all the numerators on the left-hand side, I'm going to get something over 6. I'm going to get x plus whatever these are all added together. So let's add those together. So 494 plus 502 plus 486 plus 690 plus 478. Okay, and I got 2,650. Okay, so all I did was I basically combined all the constants together. Okay, now this is more feasible. Okay, so let's solve it like we solve an equation. So remember how we have to get rid of like addition or multiplication or division before we do addition or subtraction? When we're doing like, we're trying to solve for x, we're doing inverses. So if you look right here, this says take whatever this is and divide it by 6. So how do I get rid of that? I do the inverse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by 6. Whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do the other. What happens is these go away. Now you're left with x plus 2650 equals what this is, 12. Or I could just do 532 times 6. 3192. Okay. So all I have to do is now solve for x. This is an addition equation. How do I get rid of addition? I use subtraction. So I subtract this from each side. Again, I'm showing my work. You're allowed to use the calculator as long as you show me what your brain's doing. And I got 542 is what she texted in June. How do I know I do it right? I go back and I plug it in. Take that, add it to all those numbers, then press equals, then divide by 6, and it should equal 532. I'm just going to tell you that that is correct. So basically what we're doing is we're setting it up like we set up an equation. Okay, so let's look at another one. Obviously one example, I think this one's like one of the harder ones. Here we go. So if I have these points scored per game for 7 games, okay, suppose the mean of for the 8th game gives us basically an average of 90 points. How many points were scored during that 8th game? So whatever I'm going to have to divide by 8, and I want it to equal 90. That's my new mean. So I have whatever is in the 8th game, and then I'm at 92, 102, 88, 76, 78, 98, 101, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then an X, which is 8. Okay, let's do like we did before. Don't do anything here yet. Don't do anything with this yet. Let's get this all down to basically one number. So find the sum of that. So I have 92 plus 102 plus 88 plus 76 plus 78 plus 98 plus 101. Remember, you always want to type this in twice. I got plus 635. Okay. So something plus 635 divided by 8 is going to equal 90. So again, I'm trying to get x isolated. So this says to divide by 8. So I'm going to do the inverse, multiply by 8. Goodbye. Multiply by 8. 9 times 8 is 72 with a 0. You don't even need to use a calculator there. And then I'm left with this here. Just like I did before, this is an addition equation. In order to solve it, I use the inverse by subtracting it. Get the variable isolated, and we come up with whatever 720 minus 635 is. 85 points is that 9th, or is that 8th game? Again, if you take this, plug it in back here, and actually Add it all up, divide it by 8, you better get 90. If you don't, then you did something wrong. That's how you check your work. I know what the answer is, but I find out the missing school. Okay, so if you notice again, there's a pattern. There's the pattern here, how to do it. You do the same pattern. You're trying to find the unknown. Sometimes kids just guess and check, that's fine, but that might take you a little longer. Okay, so again, setting up an equation would be your easiest way of going about that. Okay. All right, so that is a general concept there.